Hey you guys, it's Katya with Hindustan Astrology here, and in this video we're going to discuss the month of August 2023. Now this month is going to be very fiery. We have several planets in Leo, as well as the sun going into Leo, and Venus retrograde will go back into Cancer, and she is combust the sun right now. So there's a lot of pressure being put upon the sun, and I am predicting some solar flares. We have come out of our solar minimum, going into solar maximum, and the sun has already been doing some flares this summer, and we are going to see that continue through this month. Now, Mars will be going into Virgo, and we are going to see more diseases coming out, more variants of already, known diseases that will be branching off. And it's going to be difficult for our immunities this month. So we've really got to take care of our gut health. And then we have also Mercury going retrograde. Now, when this happens, it's 3 times a year, so it's not anything new, but we've just got to really make sure we've got our files backed up. We've got, everything taken care of so that it's secure and we can focus on reviewing our work. So let's take a look at this month, day by day. Thanks. Okay, you guys, so I put everything into a slideshow for you so you can take screenshots. And also I always make an Instagram picture that has all of the dates on it. So you can just go straight to my Instagram. Also, make sure you're following me on TikTok, because once I get 1,000 followers, I will be able to go live, and I plan on giving some free readings. So go on over to TikTok and look for Hindustan Astrology or Katya Ferris. They both should show up. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have for this month. So August 1st, right out of the gate, we've got a full moon. It is at 15 degrees of Capricorn, Shravana Nakshatra. Now, don't forget, this is Vedic Sidereal Astrology. This is not Western Tropical, so the signs will be different. And don't use your Western signs to try to read what I'm trying to say, because it won't make any sense. You can go to my website and click on the chart calculator, and that will take you to where you can put in your information and find out what you are. You do want to pay attention to what is your ascendant or your moon sign, because those would be the signs you need to pay attention to for these kinds of forecasts, okay? So we see this full moon is conjunct Pluto retrograde. And, for the United States chart, that's the second house of money. And I feel like a lot of people are suffering right now financially. We are uncertain of our financial stability, and it's really causing some deep-seated fears to come out. That's what Pluto is. So, Cancer is concerned with the home and with stability and, finding stability. And Capricorn is about structure. So, right off the bat, we see that having Capricorn as the full moon is asking us to be more conservative with our spending, to really, look at the fine print, the small print, especially if there's contracts or things, and just to be really careful, with how we're also spending our energy. Now, if you notice over here, we've got several planets in Leo. The MC here is the top of the chart. So that means at the time of the full moon in Washington, D.C., these planets are high in the sky. And with the sun right behind it, when there are several planets in Leo, this is what indicates solar flares, especially once the sun moves into Leo. And towards the end of the month, there will be a Saturn Sun opposition. When the other planets come close to the sun, it empowers the sun, right? It's like the sun is kind of stealing their energy, but it's too much for the sun, and so then the sun will erupt. And so this is something for us to watch out for. Um, we just had the exact Saturn Mars opposition. And as Mars is getting ready to move into Virgo, we're definitely going to see some health problems for everybody this month. So just especially be careful of your gut health. Do whatever you need to do to help increase your immunity, because I think this fall you're going to need it. Now, for DC, this is happening in the ascendant, I'm sorry, is happening in Libra, which puts this full moon in the 4th house. And the 4th house is the homeland. So again, it's concerning the home, stability, our happiness. I feel like people right now are really depressed. Things are too expensive, and the divide between the haves and the have-nots is just increasing. And there's got to be a way for people to feel more stable and not have to struggle so much. We always used to joke with Chief Golden Light Eagle that this was one of the only planets that we've lived on where we have to pay for food and electricity and water. In other words, the consciousness on this planet is pretty low, and we're going through a time where a lot of veils are being ripped off. We see that Neptune has been retrograde. It's in the 6th house, and 6th house is difficulties. It's karma, and it's also open enemies. And so, we've got to be real careful. I'm going to keep reinforcing that this month. Our health. I've just come off from getting the stomach flu, and I guess it's going around. So it's not just, the other virus that we've been dealing with. It's because our immunities have been lowered. A lot of viruses have been strengthening. And also, the 6th house, like I said, open enemies. Neptune retrograde shows deception, but it kind of like pulls the veil apart, and you can see how we've been deceived. And so we're going to continue to learn about health deceptions, things that, we thought were true, things that, everybody's been doing to get over the virus, right? Those health problems will be coming out at this time. Heart attacks, strokes, things like that. And, Saturn's retrograde still, and he's still putting his 3rd aspect onto Rahu and Jupiter. He's right in between them right now. And, this shows Saturn like kind of putting the brakes on these planets, which actually for Rahu, that's really good because he can get out of control, especially in Aries. Asking us to not be so materialistic, to not place so much value in what we can buy and where we can travel, but placing more value in, especially in Aquarius, of being more humanitarian. How do you treat people? Are you allowing your materialistic ego to get out of control and judging people for, what they have and what they don't have, or what they can do and what they can't do? Saturn is asking you to reconsider that. And having Saturn putting his 3rd aspect still onto Jupiter until November, we've really got to be careful of false teachers. Toxic teachers, people that say one thing and then do another, people that, are pretending to be your friend, pretending to enlighten you like Jupiter's supposed to do, but really what they're doing is they're sucking your energy and they're stealing your ideas. So just be very wary of anything or anyone that sounds too good to be true. If they are trying to tell you, well, for instance, okay, so the moon's in Shravana, which is about listening, right? Listening to the truth. It's ruled by Vishnu. And so, are you listening to what you want to hear, or are you listening to the truth? For instance, a lot of people will come to me, to get a reading, and they're talking about their hopes and their desires and their dreams, and that's wonderful. But all of that comes from our ego, right? Desire comes from our ego. And the truth is that you cannot really be everything you want to be. You have a path. You have karma that you are here to burn. And there's fixed karma and there's unfixed karma. So fixed karma is your birth chart, right? It's the blueprint that you wrote with Creator. And you can't change that stuff. So like, even if I, wanted to be a rocket scientist, or I wanted to be, an engineer, or I want to be, whatever, a scuba diver. If it's not in my chart, operating from your ego and forcing that onto your chart is not going to help. But we have unfixed karma, and that's the good news. And that means it's how we respond to our fixed karma. It's our attitude. Are you going to do the steps to take to get healthy? Or are you just going to say, well, it's in my chart, or I'm, whatever, I can't change that about myself? Well, those are the things you can change. How you perceive things, you can change. And so, this full moon is about that truth. Shravana is the ear. It's the star of listening. So what are you listening to? Are you listening to higher vibration words? Or are you listening to lower vibration words, such as gossip, talking about other people, right? Or just not listening at all? Are you just talking over people? Those are all signs of anxiety, actually. And most anxiety comes from trauma. So this full moon, I invite you to, listen to the highest vibrational words that you can. Listen to the people that resonate with your heart, right? Don't engage in gossip. Realize that, everything you do will come back to you. So treat other people the way you want to be treated. And that will get you on a higher train, get you on a higher train of thought. Shravana is the most spiritual nakshatra, and it is ruled by the moon. So having the full moon here is just going to increase our psychic abilities, our intuition. Our dreams are probably going to be pretty intense. And so, this is an excellent day to, find your favorite guru, right? Now we kind of throw that word around too. Karma and guru are two words in the English language that we've adopted from Sanskrit, and they've come to mean a little bit different things for us. A guru in India is someone who has renounced the material world, lives in an ashram, and their students or devotees pay money so that he can live there, and he works to rid everybody's karma. He takes on the karma of his devotees. That's heavy stuff. That's not what gurus do in the West. To us, it's just a spiritual teacher, right? But I invite you to discern, use your discernment during this full moon to, find the most pure teacher. I mean, I live in the material world. I don't live in an ashram. I have a lot of flaws. I've made a lot of mistakes. I am not a guru. I'm a teacher. But, you know, search out somebody, and the most accessible guru to us these days is Sadhguru. He'd be an excellent person to listen to on this day. And so, as Venus, yeah, she's still technically combust. Actually, she's going into combustion because Sun will be moving forward. Venus is moving backwards. So as they meet at around, 17 degrees, right? Separation, rather. That's when the combustion starts, and Venus will go underneath the Sun, behind it, rather, and then come up on the other side and become the morning star. So this is going to be a powerful full moon, and again, it's all about truth, listening to the real truth, right? Now, the next week, from the 7th to the 16th, there's not much going on between the 1st and the 7th. We have Venus re-entering Cancer. And then August 9th to the 18th, we have the Venus combustion. And then on the 16th, we have our new moon for the month, where the moon will be Gandanta, and then Venus is in the sign of Cancer, conjunct, retrograde. So let's talk about Venus re-entering Cancer. Currently, Venus is still in Leo, and Venus actually indicates heat. You would think Mars indicates heat, right? But Mars is more about action, the kind of heat that comes from movement, right? Whereas Venus is just, on fire, And so in Leo, hopefully we've been able to be more creative. Wherever she sits in your chart, she's going to affect you differently. But especially because Venus retrograde is associated with old flames, and Leo is a fire sign, it's a particularly passionate period. So when she re-enters Cancer again, Venus actually loves to be in Cancer because Venus has directional strength in the 4th house, which is ruled by Cancer, and it gives us a love for our family, a love for food, a love for nurturing others. And she's in her Gandanta zone at this time, because that is from 26.4 degrees of a water sign until 3.2 of the next fire sign. And it is a karmic knot that is placed at the end of a cycle that we must unravel before we go on. Because think about this. When you think about Gandanta, I want you to think about water, how heat affects water, right? It makes it steam, it makes it boil, and things can become very misty. And so a lot of tears are shed during Gandanta times. And it also indicates us losing control of our emotions and feeling like we are drowning. And, like we just can't get any air, right? We can't come up for air. And so during this time, it's excellent. Take a breath. Do your mantras, breathe. There's so much power in our breath. It's what helps us determine what our state of consciousness is, right? How much oxygen is in our blood. And so as we go back into Cancer, I want you to think about grounding yourself, like literally take your shoes off, go outside, put your feet in the grass on the earth. We all need that during this time. And then 2 days later, after she re-enters Cancer, she is going to be combust the sun. And as I said earlier, this is when Venus passes behind the sun and then reemerges in the morning as the morning star. And it's a very sacred and holy time. It's very sacred to Native Americans as well. And actually, in the Lakota tradition, men rise first at dawn and they greet the morning star. They prepare tea for their wife, and then they come back to bed with their wife and they brush her hair. I mean, it's so beautiful. And honestly, long hair is associated with Venus because of the mythology, the way she had a flame trailing off the back of her, depicted in like Babylon, actually Sumeria. And so the heat, the flame, the old flames, all of that stuff is a big theme right now for several people. And so especially as we continue through this month, we're going to feel that energy. Now, the next we have the new moon, which is at 29 degrees of Cancer. And the new moon, as you can see over here, is conjunct Venus retrograde. And they're both Gandanta. And the sun's Gandanta too. So, I mean, talk about feeling like you're drowning. However, I want to say, Venus does represent luxuries, and she does represent money. Jupiter represents money and expansion of money. Mercury is actual legal tender, like the cash or the coins themselves. And Venus represents luxuries, things we can buy, right? And I feel like, if you've been waiting for money to come to you and Cancer is a significant sign for you, this could be a time when money is coming back to you. Something that you invested in, something that, you've been struggling with. Venus is going to bring it back. So this could actually be really good for some people for money, I would like to say. Now, for the United States, in Washington, D.C., this is taking place in the sign of Cancer. It's the first house. So it actually I feel like it might improve the economy, especially, with Jupiter and Aries. When Jupiter was in Pisces, things were really terrible for the economy. But now that he's with Rahu, this might be an indication that there's going to be some money coming back to us. Now, in the U.S. birth chart, this is taking place in the 8th house. And the 8th house is other people's money. So this might actually be, really good for us to, heal over some of these, for instance, the interest rate keeps going up at the banks. And I think by next year it'll come down. But right now, like I said, with the full moon, we've got to be very careful with our spending. Mercury and Mars is conjunct, and that is like the lawyer yoga, right? And it's taking place in the second house of the day of the new moon, and the second house is money. And in the 8th house for the U.S. birth chart, I'm sorry, the 9th house for the U.S. birth chart. So the 9th house is law. You combine all of this together, and I think some laws are going to change. We might even have a more stabilization of the economy, or at least heading in that direction. Some laws are going to change, I think, during this time. Saturn retrograde is in the 8th house. Now let's talk about that for a second. Malefics in Vedic astrology, right? Mars, Sun, Saturn, they all do excellent in the Dastana houses, which are 6, 8, and 12. And this is because they're very difficult karmic houses. And the heavy hitters, the malefics, they're there to fight for you. And so having Saturn retrograde in the 8th house in a birth chart or in, a moon chart or full moon or new moon chart is actually excellent. It's showing us the ability to overcome. However, it indicates a long struggle. Doesn't mean that, we're just going to transform immediately. It means that Saturn is there to make us become patient and learn how to struggle to improve and to transform. So in a birth chart, it's excellent, but it also indicates a long life of struggling with health problems usually. Of course, you got to look at the 6th house, but the 8th house is the house of death, and Saturn is showing a slow, drawn out death. Okay. So I feel like for this new moon, we are getting help from Saturn, but again, we've got to learn to be more conservative with our spending and to help others too. Again, Saturn's in Aquarius, y'all. So don't be one of those materialistic people that when they're asked for help, they're fake and phony to somebody's face, and then they turn around and ditch them because they're too good for them or whatever, right? Help people, especially help people with, figuring out the system, figuring out, insurance, getting help with medical issues, finding the right doctor, finding the right lawyer. You're not hurting anybody by giving out information, okay? And so that's something I want you to think about during this new moon. We also have high in the sky that day, Jupiter and Rahu. Again, they're still with Uranus, and it's in the 10th house of the government, right? And so, we've got to, especially like I was saying before about false information or misleading gurus, we have to be careful of not being misled by authorities at this time. And so that's why you might need some help, right? But let's talk about Ashlesha. Ashlesha is the clinging star. And Ashlesha, when they are feeling insecure, because Cancer can be very insecure, if they feel like they're losing someone, they're gonna cling on for life. And when they do that and they get their crab claws on you, they might squeeze you so hard they squeeze the life out of you, right? And with Venus retrograde being there, don't do this to this may be an issue why people left you or left a situation because they felt like they were having the life squeezed out of them. So be cognizant of your behavior during this time. Try to turn around the insecurity. Find where your true security is, which is in yourself and your abilities to change and transform. Okay. But it also could bring, like I said, old flames coming back, things that need to be resolved from the past could come back during this new moon. Yeah. So, just a new moon is a time for hope, right? It's a time for a new beginning. And so let that new beginning be changing the patterns of how you related with other people, Venus, right, in the past. And then we have August 17th through the 31st, the end of the month. The sun enters Leo. Then we have Mars entering Virgo. Then we have our lovely Mercury retrograde in Leo. Sun-Saturn opposition. And then Uranus goes retrograde. And this is the time where I really feel like we've got to be careful of solar flares. And what happens if it's an Earth-directed solar flare, right? If it's not directing at us, it's not really going to affect us. But what happens is that there's something called the KP index, and just depending on how strong the CME is, and what the level of the geomagnetic storm is, there's a scale of 1 to, I think it goes up to 8 or 9. And what happens is when we are having a high level above 4, you want to have the KP between 2 and 4. That's a normal amount of geomagnetic activity for us. When it gets below 2 or above 4, we can have health crises. It puts pressure on our heart. Heart attacks can happen. It puts pressure on our brain, literally. And a lot of people can get very depressed. Suicides are higher during high geomagnetic storms. And there's actually quite a bit of literature in the science fields related to this, about the physical effects of solar storms. So knowing that it's happening can help you to deal with it better. And, like I said, just being aware, doing whatever breath work. And if you don't like to do mantras or meditation, exercise, swimming especially, regulates the breath. And when you regulate your breath, your heart functions better. And when your heart functions better, you have better blood flow. I mean, just everything works better. So, we're going to need that, because Mars entering Virgo will step away from Leo, which is good, but Virgo is the sign of health. And what happens when Mars enters Virgo, what happens is health comes into focus, and especially gut health. And like I said, the stomach flu is going around. It's not just that other one. So we've got to be careful. And also be careful of getting irritated or nitpicking things. Being a nag can come up during this time, because Venus is debilitated in Virgo, right? And so those are all, being overly critical, being complaining too much, whining, all that kind of stuff. Don't express this energy that way. Try to focus on, organizing your thoughts. And then we have Mercury going retrograde. And like I said, it happens 3 times a year. It's nothing new, but we're going to hit this Leo territory again, and it starts in Uttara Falguni, which is the star of patronage. So giving back to others. This keeps coming up this month. Not being stingy, not being a snob, having good boundaries doesn't mean shutting yourself off from the world. It means, having good boundaries means a give and take energy. And so during this Mercury retrograde, consider how you can give back to your community, how you can help others. And Leo, loves to give. They are so caring and so nurturing, especially concerning children too. So look to the children in your life. How are they doing? Are they, a lot of kids will be in school. A lot of kids are going back to school, like almost like a week after the 4th of July these days. And so there's going to be a lot of backtracking this year. Again, we're still recovering from the kids being out of school, right? For that time period that happened recently. And so a lot of that stuff is going to be going on when Mercury goes retrograde, backtracking and relearning. And then the 27th, we have the Sun-Saturn opposition. Now, Sun is the superstar, right? He's this, massive light, and Saturn is darkness. And so, and he's retrograde. So Saturn kind of puts the brake on the sun's rays in a way, which can, just like a conjunction, actually empower the sun and make him have solar flares. So this whole month, we've got to be careful of our health. We've got to be careful of our knowledge. And we've got to be careful of not letting ourselves get depressed. Sun-Saturn opposition can show a tendency to depression and getting frustrated. So this is a time to, refocus what our beliefs are, right? What our core fundamental ideas about what life is about, right? Don't let this heaviness of this Sun-Saturn get you down, because like I said, I feel like a lot of people are really down right now. And so just know that, it's just temporary. And then August 28th, we have Uranus going retrograde. Now, Uranus is the planet of electricity, suddenness, those eureka moments, right? It can rule airplanes. And it's happening in the sign of Aries, where Rahu and Jupiter still are. And so this could indicate earthquakes, because as we know, from the new science coming out, earthquakes happen every day around the world. But when a significant earthquake happens, we can see it when usually Uranus is going retrograde. And also airplanes, right? These geomagnetic storms this month are really going to mess with things on planet Earth. So you've been forewarned. So try not to, panic or anything. Uranus goes retrograde, I think, like every year and a half, something like that. And so, these outer planets are more like fixed stars. Their effect is more on a generation, but if it's affecting your chart personally, then you're going to feel it. If Uranus is on your ascendant or your moon or your sun, you're going to feel it more. So yeah. All right, you guys, so that's it for this month. Try to stay cool. We still have a heat wave going on here in the United States on August 1st. So I hope that this helps you this month, knowing what's coming up. If you'd like to get a reading from me, just go to hindustanastrology.com and click on the consultations tab. If you want to see what your chart looks like, click on the chart calculator. And also visit my shop, because I have still lots of aromatherapy that you can tap into. Purchase my book on Amazon, which is Uma's Upayas, and it's all about the astrological aromatherapy of Jyotish and how different plant families align with different planets. And I also have my recipes in the book, so you can try making things like whipped body butter or perfume. So I hope that you guys are doing well. Check out the mantra, the yantra disc as well that I have there, and the jewelry from Sarvani Designs. They're all the Navagraha glyphs and the gemstones that go with each planet. So until next time, thanks you guys. Bye.